from Standard 9, Science 2 subject, lesson number 8, Useful and Harmful Microbes. The topic that we are going to study today from this chapter is about yeast cells. In the last video, we have studied about rhizobium bacteria, their uses, their properties, where they grow, how they are useful. Now we are going to study the yeast cells. Yeast, actually we use them very commonly, and yeast is commonly used in bakery products. We usually hear the word dry yeast. So it is nothing but living organisms which grow and which increase in number. Now why these yeast are useful in bakery products? Because when they grow and multiply in number, they use some nutrient for their growth, and during this process they bring about fermentation. So we are going to see how they grow and what actually they do in the process of fermentation. This diagram shows you a single yeast cell. Now in the diagram you will see there is a roundish structure which is little bigger with a depression. Depression means it is trying to get divided into some small part which is called as bud. So this picture is showing you actually a reproductive method or reproduction in yeast. So yeast divides itself into a smaller part which is called as bud, which is exactly similar as the original cell. So this process is called as budding. Yeast reproduce by budding, and budding is a method of reproduction which is a sexual method of reproduction, which means it does not require male and female cells separate, or there is no gender existing in the yeast. Yeast is just yeast cell. All cells will be same, and each cell will give rise to a bud like this, which will later develop into a completely grown up yeast cell, which will again reproduce by budding. So this is how yeast reproduce. Now yeast belongs to the category of fungus. Yeast is an example of fungus. It is unicellular, made up of only one cell, and there are about 1500 different species of yeast. Yeast cell is unicellular, means made up of only one cell, but that one cell is very well developed. So the yeast cell is a eukaryotic type of cell, very well developed cell. Now in this paragraph, the paragraph that you see here, they have explained you a little small activity where you have to observe the yeast cell and the budding of the cell. So with reference to this activity, they are telling you that when the yeast grows and multiplies due to carbon compounds in the sugar solution, in this process, that means when yeast is multiplying, or multiplying means when it is giving rise to a new bud or new yeast cell, and then when that new yeast cell is growing, it requires a carbon compound and sugar solution. It requires sugar for its development, for growth. And why it requires carbon compound and sugar? Because these are the components, these are the compounds from which the yeast will take its nutrition. And when it is taking its nutrition, it will convert the carbohydrate in the solution into alcohol and carbon dioxide. Whatever carbon or sugar is there, it is a form of carbohydrate. That carbohydrate yeast will use, and it will convert it into alcohol and carbon dioxide. And this process is called as fermentation. So for example, consider making of bread. When bread is made, yeast is added to the base flour, wheat flour which is used for making bread. When yeast is added to it, that flour contains lots of carbohydrate. That carbohydrate is being used by the yeast, and it converts it into alcohol and carbon dioxide. Because of carbon dioxide gas, the flour will become spongy and fluffy after some time. It rises up in its size, and it becomes very soft. That process is called as fermentation.